Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another Mad Meta Magic, where we try to make the magic meta mad. Now, this is a special deck request from Bone Daddy, and I was super excited when I saw the list because I love playing Pox decks, whether or not they're good or bad. This one was a new take on a Pox deck I had never seen before. So this is what I'm calling Vampox. I have no idea the origin point of this deck. I just got the list. And so the idea here is basically we cast Smallpox. And for those of you that don't know what Smallpox is a 2-mana double black sorcery. It says each player loses 1 life, sacks a creature, discards a card, and then sacks a land. And this is one of the most powerful symmetrical effects in like early game any magic that you can play. But the golden rule of magic used to be, it might still be, that symmetrical effects are never symmetrical. So the idea is we break Smallpox by turning it into a one-sided spell, because wasting 3 cards and dealing 1 damage to your opponent for 2 mana is very strong when you don't lose that much in the exchange. So the idea is we sack things like Flagstones of Trokair so we don't go down on mana. We sack creatures like Bloodghast, so we just immediately get Bloodghast back. Or Silversmote Ghoul is our other vampire payoff, as well as Edgar, Charmed Groom, which has a strange self-reanimate dies trigger. He comes back as a coffin that is an artifact, and the coffin creates 3 1/1 tokens before flipping back into being Edgar. So he's very difficult to kill. And he's another thing we can use to help break Smallpox. We surround this with 8 powerful planeswalkers. We have Sorin, Imperious Bloodlord. Sorin, Imperious Bloodlord's a way to kind of lightning helix any target, get back our Silversmote Ghouls really easily. It's another sack outlet for like a Bloodghast, so we can just start doing that. We can put Edgar onto the battlefield quickly if we have to cast Sorin, and then we have to cast Smallpox, and then we put Edgar into play like it's good. And his plus ability is just good. He's a 3-mana planeswalker, only requires a single black. And of course, we have the Stacks engine herself, Liliana the Veil. I don't know why my double-click to zoom function's not working right now. I apologize. But out of the sideboard, we have some support for this. So we have Vindicates if there's additional problematic permanents or stuff that our removal or Inquisitions doesn't hit, we can bring it in. We can also bring in Dauthi Voidwalker, although Dauthi Voidwalker is quite terrible with Smallpox generally. The last time that I had that combination, I think that's why it's in the sideboard to start. But the last time I had that combination, it was not that great. But it might be that we just swap out 4 cards in the main, bring in Dauthi Voidwalker, then drop the Smallpoxes and bring in Vindicates or something like that. We'll see what happens. But the other thing that I wanted to show you guys, first off, let me switch views really quick. I dipped into the Patreon and Twitch supporter money, and I appreciate all of you guys for contributing. But I bought myself a Stream Deck. And this little thing, as a little macro tool, is amazing. Not just for the, what do you call it? Like recording capabilities and managing all of my recording software, which is amazing. Oh gosh, it's so awesome. Being able to do that stuff. I'm so excited about it because I can use it to automate a whole bunch of stuff. And as an example of what I can do, we are going to press a button, and I'm going to keep my hands on screen the entirety of the time and talk during it. Okay. And what this does is it restarts Moto for me and logs back in for me. And it removes all the windows, and then it does all the other, types my password out, logs me back into the client, and then changes the scene back in theory. But for some reason, the macro did not pick up the enter key press. So I'm going to have to look at that later. But it got 90% of the way there, and I tell you what, since I have to do that so often, might as well be automated, huh? The other thing that I've done with it that's really, really awesome is I've gotten a few things that are going to pop up on stream that are kind of fun that I'm excited to play with. I'm not going to demo them here. I'm going to save them for a surprise for the stream. But it's really going to be... It's going to decrease the amount of effort I have to put in to stream, which means streaming will be more fun because there's less work involved. There's still work, of course, but hopefully we can get the parts that suck the most out of the way. The other thing is, you may notice that I appear smaller, or that the proportions of the screen appear off. And that is because I got myself 2 new monitors. I am streaming and recording at a higher resolution now. I am past the full HD, which is the 1920 by 1080, and we're going to try that for a little bit. I really appreciate... So my previous setup, and I sent this out to my patrons, my previous setup was like 2 hand-me-down monitors that were like 5 years old, and I think one of them may not have even been able to make it to full HD, the 1920 by 1080. But I have 2 new ones. The brightness is way better, and it's glorious. So I'm gonna have to... Oh gosh, well, I'm gonna keep... Am I gonna keep this hand? I can't play anything. I got a mulligan. Generally, you want some hand hate, which this hand now has. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to put back a Fetid Heath. I don't really want 2 Fetid Heaths. Opponent leads on Gemstone Caverns. Okay. Opponent leads on Gemstone Caverns. Sorry about that. I had to respond to a message. Let's go ahead and Inquisition, see what's up. Alright, so opponent is playing the Cascade deck. Now I can either go for Shardless Agent, or I can go for Force Negation. I think we have to take Shardless Agent, because what this is going to force my opponent to do, in theory they cycle Striped Riverwinder, and if they don't have another blue spell in hand, I can Inquisition, take their other Shardless Agent, then they don't have any Cascades. Otherwise, they are forced to Force Negation, pitching Shardless Agent, or pitching whatever other card they have, so they can keep Shardless Agent, and they don't even have a potential 3rd land yet. So, Inquisition again. Now, this can all be mitigated by my opponent just drawing another Cascade spell, which they absolutely did. And I'm guessing this is Living End? I guess by putting the Shardless Agents in the grave, if they're playing actual Living End, it does make my life a little bit worse. So I'm going to take Force Negation because I'm going to want to back this up with an Overloaded Dam. And unfortunately, they do have the 3rd land as well. I would like to draw Liliana. I actually don't want to draw Smallpox here. I want to draw 4th land, but I need something to play next turn. Okay. Here comes the Breeding Pool. So we're gonna wait and leave up Violent Outburst. Okay, we draw Bloodghast, play a land, play Bloodghast. I might just have to cast the front half of Dam and not overload it, so I can kill. Oh, Riverwinder is hexproof, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. Okay, I apologize if I'm a little more scatterbrained today. I'm trying to wean myself off of caffeine and get down to a reasonable amount of caffeine, as opposed to the unreasonable amount I've been consuming, which is hazardous to my health. Alright, this opponent Living Ends away our guys. Then they're going to hit us for at least 7 this turn. We know they're holding a Shardless Agent, but I don't think we know anything else they have in hand. We take 7, go to 13, untap, we draw a Thoughtseize. I think we got a Thoughtseize. They have Grief and Shardless Agent. I'm going to take Grief from them. It does let them Thoughtseize me if they were to Shardless Agent. Actually, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I should have taken Shardless Agent. Because they could technically attack Shardless Agent, leave 5 power on board, we would have 4 life, and then they would get to Grief as well. But if we had an instant speed removal spell, that would make it worse. I think that play would be a little bit greedy. But the bad news is... Yeah, I guess I should have taken the Shardless Agent, not because I was worried about them cascading this turn, but because it like completely invalidates our 1 main board. Wait, I apologize, headphones users. I forgot to go again. Something about how its sounds are managed is just wrong. So we do want the Voidwalkers here, and I think that means we do not want the Smallpox. I do want the Wrath. Thoughtseize is fine. Prismatic Ending does not hit a whole lot. They don't play like any non-land permanents. So I'm going to cut Prismatic Ending, and I'm going to bring in a couple of Vindicates just as additional removal, and we'll try. So unfortunately, I mean, Smallpox is like kind of fine. If we can Smallpox early. The problem is it puts multiple large threats into their grave, potentially. And if they do get a living end off, it could be a lot worse for us. I think this is a fine opener. We have 2 lands. We're going Thoughtseize, Voidwalker, either Voidwalker into Voidwalker, or Voidwalker into Liliana, which is quite good. So we'll keep. I do have to try and catch up on some videos, so my apologies if... I might put out a few more videos than normal this week, just depending on how I'm feeling. My caffeine headache has, like, mercifully gone away for just a minute. Okay, we're gonna take Violent Outburst from them. They have Force Negation, and they have Striped Riverwinder, but, they can't force Dauthi Voidwalker, thankfully. They could probably kill it another way, but... They cycle a Street Wraith. They play Breeding Pool tapped. We untap. We draw Vindicate. Play Castle Locthwain. Play Dauthi Voidwalker. Okay, that is actually absurd. And I apologize to anyone wearing headphones. I'm turning down the desktop audio right now because that is actually unbearable. Now it should be a lot more tolerable / You know what? I'm just going to shut it off. Put a plays an island. And then passes. It's going to be loud in my ear, but nobody should be able to hear it, thankfully. We'll play Concealed Courtyard. So they either got a Violent Outburst, or they're just, like, leaving up Force. So let's attack for 3. I suspect if they have Violent Outburst, they're going to use it, just to not take damage. Okay, that was not the case. So, Vindicate their Rainbow Land. They should just cast Force here. I mean, they could still Violent Outburst, but that's what they're going to do. Okay, so they get to Living End. We blow up a land. Maybe... No, casting Liliana was not the play there, because they could just kill her for free. Okay, we untap. We draw Cling to Dust. Play Voidwalker, I guess. Because if I play Lily, she just dies. I might have to Cling my own Voidwalker to gain life. I could draw a card. I kind of need to. But I'm not sure I can beat a early Hexproof 5/5 and 3/4 that I can't block. So somehow, despite turning my audio down everywhere, I'm still getting overlapping sound effects. So it might be just like a bug with my, I don't know, my like sound card or something, because it could be ancient. More reason for me to get a new computer. But I think we're just dead. Because I cast Lily, they just force, and we lose. I could play Silversmote Ghoul, and I could block, I guess. And I'm not dead yet. The problem, though, is the only thing I have that can really get me out of this situation, I think, is an Overloaded Dam, and they can just counter it. Opponent untaps. They play a Steam Vents untapped. They go to combat. Attack for 3 with Swamp Walk. Okay, I might just be dead to a Stomp or a Fire and Ice. We go to 2. Opponent casts a Foundation Breaker. Okay, we untap. We draw an Inquisition. So, Inquisition. If they have a Living End, we can actually get out of this. Because they can't force if they're holding a Living End. They have Force holding Force. Oh boy, I can cast Force Negation. I think they had to be holding a Living End there that I could cast. Because I have no way to gain life, and I have no way to get rid of that Street Wraith, so we're dead. That's unfortunate. I think that's probably a bad matchup. Although it feels like it shouldn't be. Alright, well I'm going to mute Moto, and then I'll be back. And I get to press the Moto restart button again. Alright, Moto's been muted and I'm back. I'm really hoping we get a couple of cool Smallpox plays. It's one of my favorite cards of all time because it's absolutely backbreaking against a lot of decks. And the primary thing that was like the greatest in the universe when you were playing Smallpox was like when your opponent was an Infect player and you were on the play, or if they were playing like Ponza or Mono Green Control or anything that went like land, mana dork, go. Because not only did they waste their turn 1, you kill both their land, their creature, and they still have to discard a card, and you presumably lose almost nothing. If you were on the play, of course. If you sacked like Flagstones and discarded a vampire or something like that, like Bloodghast, because even the old versions of the deck play Bloodghast. it was just like crazy bonkers. And I mean, this version of the deck plays things like, the Sorin and Edgar package, as opposed to like Lingering Souls, which is the other way you can break the symmetry of Pox, besides like Life from the Loam shenanigans. Alright, this hand is not keepable, unfortunately. I don't want to keep a no-lander. This is somewhat reasonable. I have to put back Liliana, and we're looking at a turn 2 Inquisition because of Castle. But we also have Prismatic Ending if my opponent plays a problematic 1-drop that sticks around, like Amulet, I guess. It's a tower. Okay, hand is looking less good. If I had a white source on turn 1, I would Prismatic Ending that Chromatic Star. However, if we draw Smallpox, that would be also glorious. Okay, opponent Cycle Star for green. And they've got the turn 3 Tron. So we untap, we draw another Fetid Heath. Go Inquiring. Oblivion Stone, Karn Great Creator, and Karn Liberated. Okay. So take Oblivion Stone, pass the turn. They're probably just going to go for Karn Liquid Metal Coating. I think that's... Oh, no, they'll just go for Big Karn. So yeah, Smallpox won't save us now, unfortunately. I don't know that my opponent knows what we're doing, although Fetid Heath is a pretty heavy indicator that we're playing a Smallpox deck. Unfortunately, we're not playing Surgical. I think if I built a Smallpox deck, I would be playing Surgical, but that's my personal opinion. We're going to bring in Vindicate for sure. Voidwalker is also good. I'm actually going to keep Smallpox in this deck. I think the Inquisitions can go. I will bring in the other Thoughtseize. Cling to Dust feels less important. You can even play Stony Silence. The question is now, what do I take out? I think the answer is damn. Prismatic Ending is useful. Edgar seems good, and so does Bull. Well, Bloodghast is like not that great, but it's also like better if we're playing Smallpox. I should probably just cut Smallpox. I don't want to, though. I want to have 8 land destruction spells. I think I'm going to cut a couple of Silversmote Ghouls and a couple of Sorins. This is a very odd sideboard decision. I've not played this deck very much. I played it a few times in testing, but I haven't really gotten that far with it. I've gotten lucky a few times, and I kind of wish I'd been recording, but... Alright, we've got Smallpox, we've got Voidwalker, we'll keep. So we may just start by... depending on what our opponent mulligans to and what they open with, we may start on Voidwalker. That would, if we drew, like, Thoughtseize, that would be good. Okay, opponent leads on Urza's Mine and passes. I think we're going to Smallpox. Now, I have to sack Fetid Heath here, because if I don't, I'm stuck on colorless mana, and that would be the Kano punt of the month. So we're going to discard Bloodghast. Opponent has to sack Urza's Mine. We'll sack Fetid Heath. Opponent discards a Forest. Okay, pass the turn. We can at least follow up with Voidwalker, which is nice. And if we draw a Thoughtseize after that, they have a redundant mine. If we draw a Thoughtseize, Liliana is good, but we do need a land to play Liliana. Play Voidwalker, pass the turn. We get our Bloodghast back. Opponent plays a Power Plant. We untap. We draw another Voidwalker. Go to combat and attack for 5. Opponent goes to 14. Play Voidwalker. Pass the turn. If our opponent has Tower with redundant mine, they were destined to win. There's just no way we could beat them. Oh my gosh. They have a threat too. They play Karn, Great Creator. They wish. If they go for Ensnaring Bridge, we can kill Karn. They go for Walking Ballista. We can put Ballista on 1. Okay. They put Ballista on 1. We untap. We draw Sorin, which is not really what we want to draw. Go to combat. Attack Karn. I think we have to play this Karn out of exile for the Null Rod effect. We don't have any artifacts in our sideboard, do we? Nope. Okay. Uptick, and then we'll play another Voidwalker. Pass the turn. This just stops them from ticking up Ballista a whole bunch. It means if they play like Karn Liberated, we can just attack and kill Karn Liberated, then replay him. An Ugin here would be problematic. Would be really problematic. Oh my god. Alright. That's an Ugin. And they can just -2 and... Okay, I don't actually think we can beat an Ugin. Period. End of statement. I don't have any Bloodchief's Thirsts. I do have Vindicate, but I've not drawn a land for 6 turns. And that kind of puts a damper on things. I'll try and keep Karn nice and healthy. Prismatic Ending, the Walking Ballista. And so how do we win? We're going to have to top deck a land, play Lily. Opponent's going to have to whiff. We'll uptick, discard Ghoul. Opponent's probably going to shoot one of our Planeswalkers. Once again, they'd have to have nothing. Then we top deck Vindicate while our opponent has nothing. And spoiler alert, if your plan relies on your opponent not having anything, they're going to have something. So, and that is the correct choice. They take out a land with Karn, rather than attack Karn Great Creator. And that's the game. Alright, that is unfortunate. I think our opponent got a little bit lucky there, keeping a hand with redundant Tron lands and threats. That's just Tron's wet dream against a deck like Smallpox. Something that I'm not lucky enough to experience, but I'll see you guys in round 3. Alrighty, round 3, we're on the draw. We do have Thoughtseize, which is going to be an excellent leadoff into Smallpox. We have enough lands, and we have a Cling to Dust. So hopefully we can get some extra cards drawn off of this Cling to Dust. Now our opponent is playing Elves, which Smallpox is typically fantastic against. So let's go ahead and Thoughtseize. And it is Elves. So let's see, they've got 2 War Masters. That is slightly unfortunate. They have an Archdruid and a Shaman of the Pack. I think we take them off the Archdruid. We will definitely be Smallpoxing next turn. Archdruid is just really scary in Elves. War Master is not great for us either. An opponent's probably going to have to sack their 1/1. But if they don't draw a 3rd land, they're going to be cut off and just have a Grizzly Bear, effectively. And if they sack Quirion Ranger, they can't, rebuy a land they already have on the battlefield or anything. We take 1, go to 15, untap, we draw a Swamp. So, play a Swamp. Smallpox. We'll be discarding Bloodghast and sacrificing Swamp. Opponent discards their other Elvish War Master. They keep the War Master on board, though, so they're holding Shaman of the Pack, 1 unknown. And they sack a Nurturing Peatland. Evidently the forest is more important. It's probably also important to not be losing life to your lands. They have a Heritage Druid, but they cannot play Shaman of the Pack. We would like to kill this Heritage Druid if at all possible. We draw Bloodghast. I'm going to Cling to Dust their Nurturing Peatland, because I would like to draw a card. We draw Inquisition. Okay. So, play Castle Locthwain. Get back Bloodghast. Inquisition. Chord of Calling. Now, Shaman of the Pack is bad, but the problem is they don't have Black Mana to cast it. So we take Chord, pass the turn, and then we have to hope to top deck something good. I think that's probably one of the biggest weaknesses of most Smallpox decks, at least in Modern. In older formats you have, well, they can cast Shaman of the Pack now. In older formats you have actual Pox, which generally you could play as a 5th Smallpox effect. And potentially more, right? It's just trickier to do because it involves thirds and rounding. So you really have to be thinking about what you're doing and when you're going to get the most advantage out of it. But I think Smallpox decks in Modern, the biggest problem is they can only play 4 Smallpox. And the next best Smallpox effect is Death Cloud for 1, I think it is. And so they end up being a little bit inconsistent. And with that, if you top deck poorly, like me, you're going to run into a lot more problems. And we're just dead on board. We have nothing that can block. We have no way to interact. So on to game 2. Now the good news is, in this particular matchup, we have a lot of Fatal Pushes. We have a lot of extra removal we can be playing. We probably don't need Thoughtseize. I think I would rather just have Fatal Push. I definitely want the other Dam. And we do have Prismatic Ending. I think in this scenario, we cut a Bloodghast. Because as good as Bloodghast is, it's not going to swing past almost any elf. I think Silversmote Ghoul is a little bit better in that regard. just because we could sack it to draw cards and kind of like get our card advantage that way. There's some notion that maybe I should be playing Vindicate, but I'm kind of worried it's going to be too slow as compared to everything else we're doing. I am really sad that we did not get to Smallpox and Vindicate Tron to death. All right, this is excellent. This is absolutely a keep. This is the Smallpox hand you want against elves. Lead on Flagstones. Pass the turn. So, like, if opponent goes land dork, which they should, we can just Smallpox and take them off of it, dumping Silversmote Ghoul. Okay, this is... Oh boy. All right, this is the Smallpox. This is the one that gives me the little hit of dopamine in my brain that tells me I did a good job, I showed up to a tournament, and it made somebody's life that much worse. So sack Flagstones. Opponent loses everything. We get... we'll go for Savai Triome because we do have Prismatic Ending. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Windswept Heath and passes. Now I could Smallpox them again. But I'm going to wait, I think, until they play a creature. I think Liliana of the Veil is just, like, much higher value here. Because I feel like they're not going to have a good way to answer her, really. So I'm going to uptick. I'm going to discard Cling to Dust, because I can cast Prismatic Ending and Smallpox in the same turn. I'm kind of thinking my opponent is going to, or was going to, cast a 2-drop Elf next turn, or was hoping to. They crack Windswept Heath on their main phase. They get an Overgrown Tomb. Untapped. Then they play a Heritage Druid. Okay, so they're just kind of despairing at this point because they did not get their other land. We get a Flagstones, uptick. Discard Prismatic Ending. Opponent discards Grist. That's interesting. Smallpox. We have no cards left in hand, which means we lose nothing and they lose 3 things. This is like 2 ideal Smallpoxes in a row. And if there was a deck that I think Smallpox was like designed to play against, it was elves. Maybe goblins. A little bit less goblins now, because goblins like plays Aether Vial. But, alright, yep. We just took from them everything. You know, like the flavor text says. Alright, run it back. I don't think we're going to make any adjustments being on the play versus on the draw. Man, I gotta say this Stream Deck is really, really awesome. It's possibly the best purchase I've made of this year. I have a button for when I want to do programming that closes all my windows, opens up my programming IDE, opens up my music playlist, and presses play and shuffle. And then I can just program. And I don't have to go hunting for it. I don't have to manage bookmarks. I can just do it. And it is fantastic, let me tell you. Not to mention, I can look at it right now and I can see what my CPU usage is because I have it on like a little indicator. I've got a little analog clock right there, which is nice because I'm not like... It's just nice. It's not even necessary. It's just nice. All right, opponent leads on Cavern of Souls, naming elf, and they play a Llanowar Elves. Okay, I think we're gonna Fatal Push right away because if they play a 2-mana elf and we don't draw 3rd land, I think we have to Smallpox and ditch either Sorin or Lily. If they were relying on that Llanowar Elves for mana, things just went from bad to worse for them. Okay, they have a Temple Garden, which they shock. They play an Elvish War Master. Now, Fatal Push changes things. And Fatal Push changes things because while Smallpox would be amazing, I don't want to give up my 2nd land. So we're going to Inquisition. There should be something for us to take. Heritage Druid, Elvish Mystic, and Archdruid. I am going to... I think Archdruid's still to take. Archdruid's just so strong. Now, they can play 2 creatures next turn, and that's a little bit worse against Smallpox. I thought about taking one of the 1-drops and forcing them to either play the 1-drop or play a land and play the Archdruid. Okay, so they would have played a land and played the Archdruid. It was just worse if they didn't draw a land and they just played a 1-drop, because we would have taken a 1-drop. We draw a castle, which is good. So what can we do here? We can Cling to Dust, exile a land, draw a card, and then Smallpox. That seems pretty sick. The alternative is playing Lily, and I guess upticking is kind of bad, but it's better than downticking here in this particular position. Because if we downtick, they lose a guy, but we lose Lily. Whereas if I uptick, I just put Cling to Dust in the grave, which I think I have to do. One of the things that I definitely do that is a play mistake while playing Pox, and I don't know why it is so deeply ingrained, And I'm saying this because I just did it. I completely undervalue Cling to Dust in every single Pox deck, and it solves a lot of the problems that Pox has. Like, it's the reason you're able to draw cards. In theory, you put a bunch of stuff in the grave, and then what's your opponent going to do? But okay, opponent drew a land. We untap. We draw a Dam, which would be fantastic. I don't think I can get greedy on like a Smallpox or a Dam. I think what I've got to do here is uptick Lily, ditch Pox, Dam the Heritage Druid, or Dam the Mystic. I think it's the Heritage Druid because they could, at this point, they could top deck Collected Company. Or I could Smallpox to actually try and avoid that fate. I really want to play Sorin this turn, and it's not a bad play, but if I uptick Liliana, which I do want to have her survive, I think I get rid of Smallpox and play out Sorin. Because top decking a land for Dam is just insanely good, and solves literally all of my problems and most of my immediate future problems. Opponent keeps top decking lands, so I'm glad I didn't Smallpox. They're going to be able to play whatever they want, but all we need to do is draw Edgar. So Lily goes to 1. Even if I just have to cast Dam without overloading it, it's not terrible. I don't want to ditch either of these cards, but I gotta lose both here. So we'll kill Heritage Druid. Uptick, pass the turn. Can't escape cost Cling to Dust. It's kind of unfortunate because Cling to Dust escape cost is just a little bit too high. It's so close to being an amazing card. It's still really good, don't get me wrong, but it would be amazingly huge if it was any better than that. Alright, so we play Silversmote Ghoul. We plus Sorin, sack a Vampire, kill Elvish Mystic, and I believe this gets us back Silversmote Ghoul. So we just have an infinite Lightning Helix engine, which is pretty sick, I'll be honest. This is probably what the deck is. This is probably one of the main interactions the deck is built around. We just kind of struggled to get into the mid and late game. Opponent Veil of Summers, because they're just going to have to discard it. Otherwise, they can attack Liliana, but this creature just dies. And Sorin repeatedly buying back Silversmote Ghoul to just cast Lightning Helix is pretty dang good. So we uptick Lily, go to combat, attack for 3. Then we uptick Sorin, sacrifice a Vampire, kill Mystic, pass the turn, get back Silversmote Ghoul. We can Cling to Dust if our opponent had an Unearth or something like that. I'm not going to Cling to Dust. I'm going to activate Castle this turn because if my opponent drew another Veil of Summer potentially, Okay, they play an Elvish War Master, but if we get to this portion of the game, we just straight up win because there's practically nothing that beats this. So cast Dam, uptick Lily, go to combat, attack for 3. I really like the Sorin Silversmote interaction. Oh, I thought they were in the same core set for a minute. But they're actually not. They were in adjacent core sets. I never considered this Sorin as an engine in a stacks deck for any reason. The interactions in this deck are sick. I'm not sure if there's anything that can be done to increase the power of this deck. There might be. But that was awesome. That is what I want to be doing every single round. I'll see you guys in the next round. Oh my god, the Moto restart button just keeps on giving. That's a good 30 to 40 seconds of my time. That's a 5 or 6 step manual process. That's prone to user error and all that stuff that I don't have to do. It's literally just a button now, and it's this is why. So in my professional career, I do automation like that. That's the kind of thing that I automate. Something that sucks, takes a minute or more, and just make it happen instantly. Or as fast as the computer will allow. And I love it. I absolutely love it. Because when you get to a certain position, all you have to do is maintain things. And you get to be proactive, right? Because the less time you are spending working on something, or the less time that you're spending doing a process that sucks, that can be automated, the more time you have to think proactively and get ahead. And so, it's better than drugs. I would imagine. That's better than alcohol, I'll tell you that, in terms of dopamine hit for me. So Alright, let's, On the draw, this hand is very slow. I have no idea what I'm against. I think I'm going to mulligan because I have double Edgar. Oh, God. Okay, I shouldn't have mulliganed. Alright, well, I gotta keep this. We can put back a Cling. Do I have to put back Sorin? I think I have to put back Sorin, because I do want Cling to Dust for the potential card draw. We're going to probably lead on Thoughtseize, unless there's some... Oh, we can't even Prismatic Ending on turn 1, so we are going to lead on Thoughtseize. Opponent plays Scalding Tarn, then passes. We draw Inquisition. Well, lead on Inquisition. Opponent cracks Scalding Tarn. Opponent shocks Esteem Vents. They Thought Scour themselves. Okay, so it looks like this is maybe a slightly older build of the Expressive Iteration Murktide deck. I'm definitely taking Expressive Iteration from them. I just gave them exactly enough cards to Murktide, and I don't have a Smallpox. I should have opened on Thoughtseize. The instinct for most of the time, if you're playing a deck that plays both Inquisition and Thoughtseize, you generally lead on Inquisition in the early turns because you don't want to lose life if you don't have to. Odds are you want to take a low mana playable before your opponent can play it, and then save Thoughtseize for the higher mana stuff that you expect to come out later. Oh, thank goodness. The ultimate counter. Alright, ditch the Prismatic Ending. Oh my goodness. Ditch the Fetid Heath. Let me pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They don't play a land. Cling to Dust a land, because we want to draw a card. We don't really care about our life total at this point, because there's no pressure. Oh, and it's good. Thoughtseize. Opponent gonna bolt our face. Prismatic Ending, Lightning Bolt, Fire and Ice. I don't actually care about the Lightning Bolt so much. I'm gonna take the card that cantrips from them. Okay. We untap. We draw Castle. So, play Silversmote Ghoul, because they're probably going to have to Lightning Bolt that Silversmote Ghoul. And if they do, and we top deck a land, we can Cling to Dust, exile their Murktide Regent, get back our Silversmote Ghoul, gain some life, undo that Lightning Bolt. Just delicious. Absolutely delicious. And it's all from that top deck Smallpox. Thank you, Smallpox gods. I don't want to invoke any Smallpox gods. I know that's actually a kind of a real-life fear, and things got a little too real there for me for a second. I heard about it in the news lately that was like a thing people were concerned about, and I apologize for invoking that here. We draw Flagstones, which is good. So let's Cling to Dust Murktide. Get rid of everything that isn't Silversmote. I mean, if they counterspell this, like, okay, they Lightning Bolt our face. Okay, we gain life. Pass the turn, get back the Ghoul. If they draw like a white mana source, they can Prismatic Ending to kill the Ghoul, but they do not. We untap and draw Dam. Go to combat. Attack for 3. Now we have mana to start activating Castle. We can sack Silversmote Ghoul if they were to try and Prismatic Ending him. They play a Scalding Tarn. They fetch. They'd have to shock if they want white mana. I think this is a Prismatic Ending. It is. Alright, so sack the Ghoul. We draw Concealed Courtyard. Prismatic Ending fizzles. We untap. Draw Godless Shrine. So play Concealed Courtyard. Pass the turn. Do I really want to give up 4 life to activate Castle Locthwain? I think the answer is I have to. Opponent top decks. This could be an Expressive Iteration. It could be a Murktide. They elect to do nothing. Activate Castle. Lose 4 life. We untap and draw Edgar. So play Sorin. If Sorin resolves, I'm going to -3 to put Edgar onto the battlefield. Okay, Sorin resolves. -3. Edgar onto the battlefield. Play Godless Shrine tapped, and pass the turn. So now our opponent is going to have a very difficult time killing Edgar, because I don't think they have a Prismatic Ending and 4 colors. Okay, the Archmage's Charm to draw cards. And we can even give this lifelink and start hitting with that. This deck is full of awesome interactions. I really, really like, and not just from like a flavor or like from a I don't know, Johnny kind of position, I guess. Oh, maybe, but like, it just feels good. Kano, 11, 28, 20, 21. It just feels good. No, I think, like, besides what I've already enumerated, the other thing with Smallpox style decks is you have to be careful not to kind of trample over your own threats. And the Silversmote Ghoul being another creature that reanimates, Edgar being another creature that reanimates, there being tribal synergies that matter, another cheap planeswalker, that you don't have to sack to Smallpox because it's not a creature. All of those things make for a more interesting Pox deck. Because Pox did not have... Pox had synergies. How do I explain this? So Smallpox has synergies with cards. But most of those cards did not have synergies with each other. Or if they did, those synergies were, minimal. Okay, so opponent is exiling Bloodghast. There's nothing I can do about this, so we just have to let Bloodghast go. Then they're going to play a Murktide. It's going to be a very big and scary Murktide, but we're just going to damn it. Okay. Might as well draw another card here. Okay, we get a Triome. Untap. Get a Silversmote Ghoul. Damn the Murktide. And that's game. So the question is, do we or do we not keep Prismatic Ending in the deck? My opponent is going to have Dragon's Rage Channelers, Ragavans, potentially Snapcasters, Young Pyro. I think we cut a Prismatic Ending for a Dam and a Prismatic Ending for a Vindicate, but I'm going to keep the other Prismatic Endings in. The Exile matters for things like Delirium. I could bring in Voidwalker, but honestly, I kind of want to keep Smallpox. My opponent's deck is a deck that generates a lot of card advantage, so I kind of feel like I'm going to need Smallpox to be able to catch up. It's also a really good answer to Murktide, which my opponent is probably, I don't want to say tap out, but I should probably drop an Inquisition for a Thoughtseize and pray the life loss doesn't kill me. I'm also going to lead on Thoughtseize for Murktide-related reasons, as I was almost punished for in Game 1. Okay, this hand is fine. It's not amazing, but it's fine. So if my opponent starts by trying to build Delirium, just throwing a cantrip in the grave, I'm just going to automatically, just autopilot onto Cling to Dust. If they start with a cantrip, that starts us drawing a card. If we draw a Flagstones, we get a really awesome Smallpox. Okay. But for that reason, I'm going to lead on Urborg. Land sequencing is a little bit tricky with Smallpox, you have to be aware. Not just because of what you can and can't cast on certain turns, but also because what you won't be able to cast in the future if you have to sack certain lands. So we drew the Flagstones, which is great. I apologize for reality seeping in the background. I have a silly brown lab holding up the corner of the green screen there, and I'm not gonna fault him for it. I'm just gonna let him live his life and enjoy himself. Now, I really don't have a choice here but to fire off Smallpox, so I'm going to do that. If they've got a counterspell, which they probably do, then they have a counterspell, but they don't cast counterspell, so we're going to ditch Silversmote Ghoul. We're going to sack this Flagstones of Trokair. Opponent ditches Prismatic Ending. We're going to go get Savai Triome. Pass the turn. Next turn, we can play Concealed Courtyard and Liliana if my opponent taps out for a Murktide and doesn't have a force. If they do nothing, I still think Liliana is the way to go if they do nothing. Opponent plays a Scalding Tarn, okay? They do nothing. We draw a Swamp, play Concealed Courtyard, and try and run out of Lily. It resolves. Uptick. Let's go ahead and ditch Godless Shrine. Opponent ditches Teferi Time Raveler. They crack a Scalding Tarn for a Steam Vents. Tapped. They untap. I think their best line would be Steam Vent, Shock, Lightning Bolt, Lily, and Murktide. I don't know what this could be. Prismatic Ending on Lily, okay. We untap and draw our own Prismatic Ending. So I think what we're gonna do is play a land and just play Sorin. Sorin not gonna do too much just yet, and we need to get another card into the grave. But if we draw a Bloodghast or Edgar or Silversmote Ghoul, Sorin's going to start doing a lot. We have answers to big threats or small threats currently. Draw Flagstones, which is not what I wanted, in complete honesty. Uptick Sorin to 6. Play Flagstones. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent Archmage's Charm to draw cards. They play a Flooded Strand. They Thought Scour themselves, milling 2 lands. So I think this is the Murktide. There's a good chance they have Flusterstorm or Spell Pierce off of 1 mana. They could even have Dispel. Dispel not a problem against Dam because Dam is a sorcery, not an instant. We draw another Sorin. So, Damn the Murktide. If this is Turn-Aside, I'm going to laugh, because I was thinking about Turn-Aside this whole time. Okay, it is not Turn-Aside, thankfully. Uptick Sorin, pass the turn. We cannot Cling to Dust just yet. I don't want to exile Silversmote Ghoul to Cling to Dust. I would prefer to get another card in the grave somehow. Okay, opponent plays a Scalding Tarn. They crack a Scalding Tarn. They get an island. If this is another Murktide, that's potentially very problematic. They're going to tap Sorin. Okay, you got it. Thought Scour themselves, milling an Archmage's Charm and a Path to Exile. And they pass. We untap. We draw a Silversmote Ghoul. Okay, well I think what we do is attempt to play a Silversmote Ghoul. Then we plus Sorin to sacrifice a Silversmote Ghoul and turn 1 into 2. And gain a little life in the process. We still have mana to sack 1 as well. That's good. That's so good. Oh, Silversmote Ghoul, the engine pox needed and nobody knew. I really like this deck. Even if this is a deck I would absolutely take to an FNM, provided I had the cards. Opponent is going to path this Silversmote Ghoul. I would prefer to have the cards over the lands, if I'm being honest. So we'll fizzle the path, get back the other Silversmote. Man, a self-sacking graveyard recurring creature. That's good. It's just good. Counterspell this, like... I mean, this deck seems like a deck we should be having trouble with, because they just play so many things so quickly. Opponent Alpine Moon. An Alpine Moon Flagstones? An Alpine Moon Castle Locthwain? Okay, that makes sense. Opponent now out of cards. We untap and draw Edgar. So play Bloodghast. This is going to be a really good turn. Play Sorin. Yeah, we'll just put Edgar onto the battlefield. What are you going to do? You're now dead to Sorin uptick. You're dead to any of these creatures surviving, and here's a hint, they probably will, because all your Prismatic Endings and Path to Exiles seem to be in the grave. Opponent would need, like, Miracle Terminus to stay alive, and I'm pretty sure they're not playing that. Okay. Alright, we got him. Hey, we're 2-2! I'll see you guys in round 5. Alright, and we're on for round 5. Against a Kahira deck, so this is either Control or it is Elementals. It's almost positively Control. This is a mulligan. This hand is much better, and I will be keeping. I think I'm going to put back Prismatic Ending, assuming it is Control. We will start by shocking Godless Shrine and casting an Inquisition. It would appear that it is, in fact, Control. I'm going to take Spreading Seas from, because that's their cheapest spell. Pass the turn. I'm really hoping I draw a Flagstone. Opponent leads on Raugrin Triome. We draw Bloodghast. I'm going to Cling to Dust Spreading Seas because I really want to draw a card. Okay. Play Fetid Heath. Pass the turn. I would really like to draw Flagstones of Trokair. It would be very good. I do not want to cast Smallpox when my opponent has this kind of mana advantage. Interesting that I do not want to draw Flagstones any longer. I want to draw Black Mana. Oh gosh. I am in trouble. Us not having the second black source pretty bad. Opponent plays a Scalding Tarn, which is a land we didn't know about. They did not leave themselves available to cast Archmage's Charm, which tells me they either have Counterspell or an Archmage. Okay, so that's bad. I mean, if we cast Smallpox and we don't want to cast Smallpox when we're behind on lands, unless there's something particular that we eliminate. Just casting Smallpox without getting like a creature threat or something like that's really bad. But opponent is putting down Jace this turn. That problem. I want to brainstorm. We untap. We draw Thoughtseize. I think I'm just going to concede too far behind because I didn't draw lands. I even tried. I think that was the correct play to make. So versus control, I definitely want Vindicate. I definitely want Thoughtseize. And honestly, as good as Smallpox is, I don't know if I actually want it versus control. I kind of would prefer to be maxed out on threats, maybe. The dam is not going to be as important. Doesn't hit planeswalkers. Prismatic Ending can only kill, like, Teferi and Spreading Seas. I'm going to cut a couple of Prismatic Endings, and I think I'll cut an Edgar and an Inquisition, and we'll try it like this. I have no idea how to sideboard this deck against control, so this could be like a massive, massive mistake. Trying to logic it out. I will keep this, I think. Double Inquisition's kind of nice. Opponent did keep 7. We draw a third land, we play Liliana, we're probably fine. Opponent has double Solitudes. I mean, so they could like Solitude a Bloodghast if they really care. Opponent leads on a Hallowed Fountain tapped. We untap and draw Thoughtseize. So the question is, do I cast Inquisition this turn, or do I cast Bloodghast? I think what we do is Thoughtseize. Because if our opponent drew a... I guess I shouldn't have shocked. I should have just Thoughtseize to begin with. I was going to say, if my opponent drew a Spreading Seas, I'm going to need to Inquisition, but for that I just lost 2 life for no reason. We'll take Jace from that. I believe that's their hand. Pass the turn. If we can get this Liliana down, it'll be pretty fantastic. Opponent plays Scalding Tarn. We untap. We draw another Liliana, which is not what we want to see. Play Bloodghast. Go to combat. Or, I mean, I guess pass. Opponent cracks Scalding Tarn. Gets a Savai Triome, then untaps. They play a land. They put Kahira in their hand. Oh, no. Alright, well, Inquisition. Opponent is going to Solitude, pitching Kahira to exile Bloodghast. I probably should have attacked first. Just in case they were going to Solitude, pitching Solitude. Okay. If we can get this Liliana down, we are fine. 100%. We just got to get there. And the longer we wait, the worse it is, obviously, because like our opponent will be able to just hard cast Solitude next turn. It's a flash threat, which Lily's going to be bad at dealing with. But it's turn 5, and we haven't drawn a third land yet. So opponent fetches, gets a Hallowed Fountain, untaps. They draw. They play a Mystic Gate. We untap. We draw a Godless Shrine. But is it too late? Play Lily. I guess if they have a counter spell, they can't cast Solitude. Uptick. We will be discarding Prismatic Ending. Opponent probably discarding land number 6. They discard Mystic Gate, which is the one we knew about. Okay. Opponent casts a Solitude. Doesn't exile anything. They untap. They go to combat. They attack Lily for 3. She goes to 1. Our opponent goes up to 21. They play a land. Play Teferi Time Raveler. They downtick to draw a card. Okay. We untap. We draw a Godless Shrine. So this is going to be kind of awkward. But uptick. Make each player discard. Discard Godless Shrine. Opponent discards Supreme Verdict. Okay. So we play Sorin. They may let him resolve by not perceiving him as a threat. Okay. Opponent does Archmage Charm him. Alright, we'll pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They draw a card. They're going to uptick to Fairy. They'll hit Liliana and kill her. As long as they didn't top deck a counter spell, we can play Liliana, downtick, kill Solitude. We draw another Sorin, which is an okay follow-up. Play Lily. Edict our opponent. Okay. They lose Solitude. Pass the turn. I mean, if we lose this, I think misplaying off of that Kahira might have something to do with it. So, I would not blame the deck if I lost this round. I would blame my crappy playing. Okay, opponent's last card was a Prismatic Ending. They uptick to Fairy to 3. We untap and draw a Voidwalker. Play Sorin. Opponent drew another counter spell. At least they're having to use their Archmage's Charms instead of just counter spells. Because every Archmage's Charm that they use, that's 2 cards they're not getting. Opponent upticks to Fairy to 4. We untap and draw Inquisition. So, play Voidwalker. Inquisition. It's a Solitude. Okay. Well, that's a Solitude they won't be able to cast against Edgar. Nothing to take from their hand. Pass the turn. A little bit bad luck them drawing the third Solitude, but I was hoping to hit like a Spreading Seas, or another 3-mana Teferi, which is why I played the Voidwalker first. Okay, we draw Cling to Dust, so we're going to Cling Archmage's Charm. We draw Vindicate, pass the turn. Opponent upticks Teferi to 2. Hits us for 3, they go up to 30, we go down to 13. We draw Thoughtseize. We're still choked on mana. I don't know how this is possible. We've drawn extra cards. I've only seen one more land than I have, and discarding it was absolutely the correct choice. They drew a counterspell. Okay. Well, they were going to eventually. I mean, their control. Pass the turn. This drawing 1 1/4 cards every turn is how they're going to end up beating us. Takes Fairy to 3. We draw Fetid Heath. All right, Edgar. Now drop a train on him. Anyone that gets that reference, appreciate it. It's a very, very obscure, narrow reference. Well, Edgar gets counterspelled, and our opponent follows it up with a Memory Deluge. So this will likely be it, unfortunately. If I did not lead on that Inquisition, or if I did not lead on the creature prior to the Inquisition, the first time around this game, it is likely my opponent would have pitched Solitude to Solitude and kept Kahira to buff the other Solitude. I'm actually not sure about that. I guess it was a possibility. I don't know that it was likely. I have to Vindicate the Hall of the Storm Giants, or I just lose immediately. They could have animated it in response. They actually had enough mana. So now the problem is, even despite all of these action spells, we have no way to generate advantage off of a Cling to Dust. So if we had like some Silversmote Ghouls in the grave, like it's a possibility that maybe we could grind our way to victory somehow, but it's gotten to be too late in the game, and we've not denied our opponent enough. So like I can Cling to Dust Solitude to gain life, but I'm dead to any single point of damage. I draw a Triome. Of course, now I'm going to draw the lands. This is going to be, I think, a disappointing end, unfortunately. The Archmage's Charm to draw cards. They untap. I guess if somehow, some way, in the 6 cards they have in hand, after Memory Deluging and Archmage's Charming, 7 cards after down-ticking Teferi. Okay, I was going to say exactly Sorin Vampire, no interaction from the opponent, is what is required. And those 5 cards basically have to be lands for our opponent. Play Bloodghast. Okay. Uptick, sack a Vampire, and they can flash a Prismatic Ending. That's going to be game. Unfortunately, I don't think this deck plays fetch lands, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. So, there was no way we could have, held up a land of some kind to get back the Bloodghast. And, maybe that's a trick that we could play, a fetch land or two to make happen. But I'm not entirely sure that that's where this deck wants to go. Overall, this deck is very fun to play. If you can actually get into the late game situation of Bloodghast, Silversmote Ghoul, Sorin, Lightning Helix your opponent's face, Thoughtseize all their cards, it's great. But this deck struggles with a lot of the same problems. I think I mentioned this the last time I played 8-Rack, but I'll say it again. Currently in Modern, you need to do something incredibly powerful, incredibly proactively, incredibly quickly. So, you need to play a whole bunch of stuff fast. And if you don't, you're basically locked into playing one of the only slower control or combo decks that can still compete. So this deck is definitely not tier 1, but it's not meant to be, I don't think. This deck is just awesome. The repeated Lightning Bolt, the Vampire synergies, casting Smallpox. I even got to demonstrate, the best Smallpox of all time, taking out 3 things of your opponent's and none of your own. So I'm pretty happy with that. The problem with this deck, though, being slow, if we just had some way to recover cards. The problem is, to do that, nothing exists in white or black, to my knowledge, that could do it. This deck wants to play something like Ancestral Visions. You want to be, if you're not casting an, Inquisition or a Thoughtseize on turn 1, you want to be getting cards eventually. We still struggle to draw Smallpox. There's no redundant Smallpox. But I am happy to see the addition of another Planeswalker, especially one that like interacts with the board. It adds to the tribal synergy like sub-theme going on here that's really cool. And the tribal synergies are all with the same creature type, which is strangely not zombies, but buys themselves back from the grave. I think that's just really awesome. You get to play Prismatic Ending, which is a great reason to splash white. You are already splashing white for Flagstones anyway. So I think the sideboard probably could be tuned a little bit for, you know, different metagames and whatnot. It's not bad. I personally would build it differently, but that's, I really think, personal opinion. If you're bringing in Voidwalker, you're probably not playing Smallpox. That's I think a pretty easy 1-to-1 swap if you want a good sideboard rule for playing this deck. But other than that, I highly recommend playing this deck. It's a lot of fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined, and remember you can follow me on Twitch. Same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesdays in the afternoon, sometimes the evening, and the next upcoming streams are going to be a lot of fun because I've got a lot of Stream Deck macros and stuff to play with, some stuff that I've added into Streamlabs that I'm kind of excited to show off, and I showed off the Moto restart button, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. I'm a programmer by my native trade, and I have a few things up my sleeve that I really, really want to demonstrate. So you're not going to want to miss it. Make sure you tune into those streams if you get the chance. And if you don't, stream VODs go up on Fridays. So, all right. Well, I'll see you guys next time. You're all wonderful human beings. Thanks for watching. Bye.